So I am trying to do a screen recording of all you need to get set up if you are a Windows user. The goal is to try to let you be able to set up all of the necessary tools that we are going to be using during this period, right? While we will be learning how to write code here at Hot School. So we were able to successfully do this on Mac. For you can watch the earlier video if you want to set all your devices up on Mac, right? I try to explain into detail how you can download VS Code, make sure you enable VS Code in your terminal, and also from there also try to set up some other necessary tools, right? And be able to use some of the tricks and tips that VS Code also offers to us. And I also advise people who are using Mac to like download Homebrew, right, which will help you a lot to be able to download any other software that you might be needing that is going to really be of good use to you if you really want to. And for those who are having permission and super user stuff, there is a link that I'm going to also be sharing in the Slack channel that also covers this basic detail. All right, now let's get into it. Two things we're going to be doing today. I'm going to be showing you how to download VS Code on your system and set it up for you to start writing code. And I'm also going to be showing you how to download and install Git, which is like very important for us to be able to set up Git bash for our terminal use. All right, so for VS Code, just type VS Code download in your search bar and it should bring you to this page, and then the first link should be what you are looking for, and then you can go ahead and click on what on Windows. So once you click on the Windows, then it sort of starts downloading, right? You can click on the Windows and then it downloads for you right there. And once the download is done, right, you can come here and I hope you can see this clearly. So if you cannot see this, just zoom in a little bit from your own hand, and you can go to downloads folder, and once you're in your download folder you should see um, the VS Code setup that we have here, right? We have this VS Code setup here. So next thing is to right click on it and then run as administrator. Okay, once you download that, you should be able to see an interface that looks like this, right? And then you should be able to okay, you should be able to run this setup on your hand. I think you should be able to see this setup on your hand. I think I can maximize this a little bit for everyone who needs this. You should be able to need to be able to do this on your hand right there. So you come here, you accept, make sure you agree, and this is what is important here. Make sure you click on the hard to part right here. Also make sure that all these other ones are checked. If you want the desktop icon, you can check this, right? And then you go for the next, and then you click on install, right? Once you click on install, it then goes ahead and install your VS Code for you, right? Once it installs the VS Code, you can then close all of this right there. You can then close all of this right here. So once that is done, then you can just come to your computer and search for VS Code and try to run VS Code. Okay, so what you can do is you can click on this and try to search for what VS Code, right? Try to convert this and then start a VS Code instance. So now what this does for us is it opens and starts what a brand new VS Code instance. Now this will come in a default theme, which is gonna be the black one, right? And you should see the welcome, yeah, you should see the welcome page like this. Okay, so what you then have to do after this is to then try to understand how VS Code works. This is what right here you have your activity bar right here. Then once you click on any button from the activity bar, then it opens a sidebar, right? And you can click on any one of the activity bar right? It opens the sidebar. Also, you can use Control B, right? You can use a Control B to toggle on and off your sidebar. Now, below your sidebar is what we call what the status bar right there. If you don't want to see this welcome page again here, you can uncheck this or check this depending on what your preference is, and you can then go ahead and what create what a new file. But before we create a new file, right, we need to install the terminal, which is going to be what a git terminal, which is popularly known as what the git bash. There is also another terminal that Windows user can definitely look out for, which is what the commander, I think is the commander. It's been a while I've used the commander. It's another very good terminal that you can just download, and it comes with some of the basic bash scripts that you can use. It comes with some of the basic bash scripts that you can use. All right, so you can just come in here. It allows you to download the full version here, and it does a lot of interesting things. So anybody who wants to use this can also use this. Now, prior to now, we've talked about the fact that we have CMD, right? We have something we refer to as the CMD for every window user, which is the default terminal that comes with most of our windows. But because of its limitation, right, these are one of the reasons why we're not going to be using this. Also, we have the PowerShell. We have the PowerShell, which is another interesting one that we can also use. The PowerShell, which is another interesting one that you could also use. All right, but because of their limitation and they cannot run most of the bash script, right? Most of the bash syntax that we want to run. So later on, as we move in this course, so we're just going to focus on trying to install git bash. To get git bash installed, what do we need to do? We need to what? Just put what? Go to the internet and do go to any browser tab that you have and do what? Git um, scm download. And once you put this on the internet, and then it should pop you off to this first page where you need to click on, and then click on this download button. And what this does is this brings you here. You can click here to start the download, right? Make sure you click here, and then whether it is a 32 or 64-bit, right, it will download for you. Now once that is done, sorry, excuse me, once that is done, all you just need to do is you also need to just go back to what? Go back to your download folder, right? Once you have your download folder right there, you should see the git downloaded right there, and then you can double tap it. This is the one that is a little bit tricky, right? This is the one that is a little bit tricky, and what happens is it has some interesting requirement for us to be able to get this installed. And one of what I was going to do is I'm going to try to bring in a magnifier here. Let's see if we can bring in a magnifier to help us to zoom in a little bit into this installation. Okay, I'm not sure. I hope you can see my screen properly. Now what this does is it's supposed to this is supposed to allow us to really install git. Okay, you're able to see this, and then you can click on the next option. Make sure you check what a git bash profile to Windows terminal, right? And yeah, I think this is the only one you need to check here. If you want a desktop icon, you can do this, right? But make sure every other one is checked. If you want to update as well, you can also do that right there. You can go back. So make sure the VS Code, right, is the default Git editor right there. And then you can go on to the next, and make sure you use the override such that main can become like the branch right there. And you can go on to what next. Also, make sure you use what the recommended one, right? We should be able to use Git from command line and also third-party service, which is here. And then you go to the next and make sure you use what the external SSH. I think that also is also good right there. You can use the open SSL, right? And make sure you pick the checkout as is and commit as is option. From there, you can use, make sure it also install what it means TTY terminal, which is a default terminal interface that we're going to be seeing later on once this installation is completed. And make sure you also use what the default mode of this right here, and make sure you use the Git credential manager. Make sure you enable symbol link here, and also make sure you enable the experimental options, and in no time it should start installation right there. So it's going to start installing right there. I already have one installed already, so it's also just trying to get that installed. So once this really installs, what do we get to have? Now you have something called Git on your computer. What is Git? Git is a software that allows us to collaborate, right, between multiple users, like multiple persons, and you can do some interesting things like create branch. You can commit your code, and I mean it's just a software that monitors whatever you're doing inside a particular folder. So once you call Git to monitor a particular folder for you, and then Git begins to monitor anything you do in that software. So think of how we have Microsoft Windows version maybe 10, 8, and then we move to 10, and from there we move to 11. So what it enables us to do is to do proper versioning, right? It enables us to do like proper versioning of our what of our software. That's what Git enables us to do. All right, so I just launched a Git bash instance, and let's see what it really brings to us. So this is what the Git bash instance looks like right there, and we can we can press I think Control Plus to zoom in so that everybody can see what we have here. So right here, what happens? It allows us to, I mean, to be able to use interesting commands, and these are the commands that are going to be pivotal to what we are going to be learning. Yeah, later on we're also going to do a course that where I'm going to talk about terminals. We're going to be installing Node.js, we're going to be installing npm and some other important packages or softwares that we need. Majorly we will install Node.js, which also installs npm. We're also going to install yarn, and yeah, I think those are like the major thing. Also, I think eventually I can also install Python, and so that we can see all Python does. But why do we need this? Now the reason why we need this is because this is a very good terminal, right, compared to the power the CMD commander or the CMD or the PowerShell. It is a lot more bash related, and for a programmer, I mean, you'll be working with a lot of bash related software, so it's better that we sort of like come to this particular one and make the good use of it. So now, how do we get this to open in our VS Code? So what we need to do is we first go to our VS Code, right? Once we get to the VS Code instance, we need to make sure that inside our terminal, right, the default terminal is what the git bash. Okay, so there are some interesting things. There is a command, there is a button here that you can click, which is the manage button, and it opens the command palette, which is a short syntax, a shortcut for that is what Control Shift P. If you're on a Mac, which is what Command Shift P right there. And I also said like what it has some interesting features again that you can do. You can delete this and add it back. The greater than sign, and the greater than sign is for what the command palette, while the colon is for line numbers. It allows us to search for line numbers in our code. So if you want to go to a particular line right there, it will try to go to that particular line for you. That's what that does. And there is another one that is support what the heart sign, which goes to a symbol. The heart goes to symbol, the colon goes to line number, and what the greater than sign opens a command palette that you can type in. So you can select what default terminal. I think if we put on default, then you can see what we have here, terminal default. So this then lists all of the list of what the terminal options that you have. right? You have the git bash, you have the command prompt, but so the major one we want to enable here is just the git bash right here. So once that is enabled, you can come right here and click on here where we have what the new terminal, and eventually you can see a panel open up here. So now this panel can be controlled with what the Control J right there. Now let's quickly do a refresher. We talked about what the activity bar, which whenever we click on it opens the sidebar, right? Each of the activity buttons right here does different things: the file explorer, the search, the source control, the run and debug, and the extension, right? These are interesting activities that you can do here. You have what this account here for multiple accounts, and you have the manage that helps us to manage what settings right here. So these are interesting things that you can really do with your VS Code. I also said earlier that what Control B can what toggle on and off our side, but the same way Control J toggles on and off what the terminal. And the interesting thing is what for the terminal you have other tabs, which is a problem tab, you have an output tab, you have the port tab, and you have the debug tab. But the one we're going to be using most of the time is the terminal tab here. And what do we have here? It allows us to press some interesting commands, right? Later on we'll go to these commands and see what they are, but what is much more important for you right now is what I want us to type code and type hyphen what help. So the code, there is a space there, and hyphen help. What does this do? This helps us to check if our VS Code actually has been added as a part to our environment variables that is installed on our machine. So now you can see that it worked, right? It didn't tell me command not found. Now for those of us who are struggling to add part, right, I would advise you, if you don't want stress, just uninstall your existing version of your VS Code, right, and install another one, and make sure you check that portion that says add path. Now if you want to manually do this on your own, it might be very difficult, but it is not too far-fetched. It is something you should know and be aware of. So you can click on the search button again and type what environment variables. This would work in both Windows 11 and it will work in Windows 10, and most likely it should work with Windows 8. I'm not sure. The interface might be different depending on what you have. But if it's different for you, just put this environment variable on Google and ask Google, right, how to get to environment variable on Windows 8 or Windows 10 right there for you to be able to do what you need to do. So you click on this. Now what this does is this open a small interface for us. Now what does this interface do? This interface, I think it should be a lot bigger now. What this interface does is you should see the environment variable option, and then you should have this interesting option here. You see the user variables that we have, and you see what the system variables that we have. Then you on any one of them, whether the user, right, you can go to path, and then you can click on edit, and then you can click on what the new, right? Once you click on new right here, right, once you click on new, you can browse and locate your VS Code. Now how do we locate VS Code? We can locate VS Code by going to let me show you the exact place where VS Code is always installed on our what, on our machine. All right, so this is the exact place right here, this part right here. Okay, let me zoom in a little bit so that you can see this part. This is the part where VS Code will always be what installed on your Windows machine by default. Okay, so what you just need to do is you need to be able to locate this particular part on your computer, or you copy this part and replace it with what your username is. How do you get your username? Right, you can just what go to you can open your, I think you can open your search right here, and you should be able to go to say settings. So once you click on settings right here, settings should show you the name of your laptop. Right now you can see, right, the name of my own PC is Ojo right here. So this would eventually be your username. Let me double sure, let me confirm that. Another thing you can do is what, make sure you come to this PC and double tap inside of this, and so you would notice that what the hidden files on this computer are enabled, and if you want to see what the hidden files. Make sure you want to enable to see the hidden files. I think you should be able to you should be able to, is it options now? I'm not sure. I think option view, yes, option view, and this should be visible to us here. This should be visible to us here by what? You should see under the view, make sure you would show hidden files and folder. This might be important for you to enable, right? Just click on this and apply and then go on OK right there. So that would enable you to see your some of the folders that are hidden on your operating system. So if you want to see what your username is, for example, okay, this is my username now, right? Oluwasetemiojo is my username here. Okay, and then once you go in here, I'm going into what? App data, and I think it should be local based on what was explained here, right? App data, local programs. So I'm going to programs here. Programs, where are you? And once I have programs, and then I can see Microsoft VS Code right there. And this is what I need. Okay, so what I need to do is I need to copy this particular this particular path. Okay, so you can right click on this, and Windows 11 enables this option where you can copy as a path with Windows 11. But for other users, right, you can, I think you should be able to go to properties. You should be able to go to properties, and this is another thing. You should be able to copy this as well. Copy this part as well. So you can see your part here, and you can also copy it right there. But for Windows 11 user, you can right click and just copy your part right there. And we can then go back to the environment variable that we were trying to what? The environment variable that we're trying to add. Okay. So I can cancel this whole process and I can do what? A new right here, and I can just paste this whole thing right here. So I can delete the double quotes at the end and delete the double quote off the top. And this is my full path to where my VS Code has been installed. Okay, this is it right here. So this is how to just add existing environment variable to what? An already installed VS Code. You should know how to do this if you're going to really survive as a engineer that uses Windows, right? Because this is important. This is like very, very, very important. Also for Mac users, you should also learn how to add something to existing parts. All right. Yeah, yeah. Let's move forward. So once you have done that, then you just click on OK, and you should have your part set up properly. Okay, and you can then come back to what? You can then come back to your VS Code and your terminal right there and type your code, right? Hyphen help, and it should also work as well. Now, if you also want to open your terminal outside of your VS Code now, right? Outside of a VS Code, I should be able to go to a blank desktop. So what I can do is what? Right click on this blank desktop, and I think I should be able to, if I do more options, show more options, I would then see what? Open Git Bash here. That is one option, right? Open Git Bash here, which opens, it definitely opens a new Git Bash instance for me right there. Okay, so that is one that we can definitely use. We can definitely use. Okay. Uh, Sorry, I think I'm having some lag right there on my PC. Uh, just see what is going on there. Okay, so we can then go back to an existing browser interface. Okay, so the goal right here is to we've done VS Code, we've installed VS Code, we've installed Git. I've run through the step-by-step process to install Git. So what I would also go forward to show you is some of the tips and tricks of what you can do inside of your VS Code. All right, some of the tips and tricks of what you can do inside of your VS Code. Now, once you go into your VS Code again, let's see whether we have a VS Code instance open up right for us. Now, inside of this place, we then have the ability to what to create a new file. Okay, you have different kind of things. New file, you can do a text file, you can do a JavaScript file. I mean, you can do any kind of interesting thing here. But majorly right here for this teaching process, I'm just going to do a control new. Okay, what does a control new do? A control new creates just any file for us, and it is plain text. Okay, so inside the status bar right here, you can see what the select the language mode, and you can change the language mode right here to what, to JavaScript, right, to JavaScript. Or you can also create another new file and do what, Control KM, and make sure it is what, pointing to a new file called what, an HTML file. Or we can do a control new, right, and do Control KM and type in what, CSS. Okay, type in CSS. So right here you can write CSS related things, right here you can write HTML related things, right here you can write JS related things. These are the major three things that we're going to be dealing with most of the time in this semester. Also, you can go into just activity bar, click on the extension. I advise you to install something I call the live server. So what is a live server? Live server is just an extension that allows us to what, to launch a what, development local server that enables what, live reload for static website majorly. So with HTML and CSS, it allows you to just live reload majorly. This will come in very handy in what we are doing. And for those who will be going to front end, right, and you'll be doing React, right, we'll be doing a lot of React and JavaScript. We'll be doing a lot of other interesting things with Vite, Webpack, ESBuild, and some other bundlers that we're going to be talking about. I also advise that you should install what, Prettier, right there. So what is Prettier? Prettier is just a tool, right, that helps us to format our code. If you want to know more about it, right here, you can click on prettier.io, right? What does prettier.io does? It takes us to what, the full website of Prettier, and it helps us to what, to try it online. It shows us the guide on how to install Prettier on any project you are in, like that, like that, like that. So it's a very beautiful software. You can also practice with it online, right? It helps you to format your code in different versions. Okay, different versions, right? This is a code right here, and yeah, I think we can find a way to, you can see like right here, this is the formatted version of this. So Prettier is very good for formatting. Also, another interesting piece of software that I also need us extension that I also need us to install is what, make sure you install the Prettier that is from the Prettier company itself. Also, I would like us to install ESLint from what, the Microsoft team. All right, so once you click on it, then you see the install button and you install it right there. And if you want more information about ESLint, you can just, I think we should be able to go to eslint.io, eslint.io. I think so. That should be their site. But let's just search for ESLint. ESLint. Okay, we have it's eslint.org. This is another interesting tool. It helps us to what, to find and fix problem in what, JavaScript code. Okay, you will need this a lot when we start writing JavaScript actively. So you can also learn more about it by going to the get started, right, and you can follow this guide. Just read it. There's nothing too serious about it right now. Most of the time I advise you just set up the global installation for now, right? But when we start doing JavaScript, I'm going to really explain to you this, how this npm and Node.js really work. Okay, so that are the three major extensions that I want you to be able to what, install. Again, one is what, live server for reloading our code. The other is what, Prettier to help us to what, to make sure our code is well formatted, and the third one is what, ESLint, right? Now, when we come here, okay, part of the interesting things we have right here is what, oh, is this possible in JavaScript? No, this is not possible. So there is something we call what, console.log. console.log. This is the major way to print out something in JavaScript. Okay, this is the major way to print out something in JavaScript. So this is going to print out hello world. But I have some interesting things we can do here. You can what? Duplicate this line 1 on line 2 using what? Shift Alt the up and down arrow. Shift Alt the up and down arrow. I mean, very interesting. You can delete the line with what? Control Shift K, right? Control Shift K. And you can highlight a whole line by what? I think Control High, right? Highlight, see Control High now. So if you want to know about all these shortcuts right here, you can come to Manage, and then it will show you what keyboard shortcuts right there. So you can really learn all of these keyboard shortcuts. And if this is too much for you to really go in, you can go ahead and download what? I think you can click on Help, click on help, and it gives us what? The keyboard shortcut reference. Okay, it takes us to a PDF version for Windows shortcuts, right, that you need. So this is something I advise you to also look at, especially the general and the basic ones, right, and the navigation ones, just for start, right. This is going to really help you to, I used to say that as an engineer you should be able to what? Get the hang of all of the tools that you need to make your work easy and interesting. Okay, so that is why you can download this PDF and soak it in, read it, and learn more about this PDF. Back to our VS Code. Now we also have the settings where you can adjust the font size, right? This is our settings. You can either use the code version or you use the UI version to adjust. So you can search for what? Font family. I think font size. So here my font size is currently 35. I can change it to what? 25. And once you do that, you can then come back and see that what? Our font size has greatly reduced. So I like to put it back to what? 35. I can change it with the code version here. I search for what? Font what? Size. And it takes me to font size. I can change it back to what? 35. So this will really help me a lot so that everybody can see what I have right here. Okay, so this is that here. Now another interesting thing we can do with VS Code is what? You can do multiple cursor with your what? The hotkey. You can do multiple cursor with your hotkey right there. Multiple cursor with your hotkey. Okay, and once you have done the multiple cursor, you can then control what? D. Control D highlights a particular word, and you can change the word to what? I mean, hello. I mean, this is very interesting and very beautiful, right? You can do a lot of interesting things. You can do a lot of beautiful, interesting things, right, with VS Code. And I can still highlight everything and change it back to what? Console dot what? Dot log, right? It is beautiful, right? It makes you super fast and super like good. That is what your VS Code does for you. So now if you want to learn more about some of these tips and tricks, okay, you can go to what? Help, and go for what? The video tutorial if you learn faster with the video, or you go to the tips and tricks, right, which should take you to, I think, some of the interesting tricks that you need to learn, the basic tricks, right? It helps you a lot. You have the IntelliSense, you have the command palette, you have the default keyboard shortcut, you have the keyboard reference like I explained earlier, you have the quick open with your Control P, you have the question mark to view command suggestions, you have you can type in commands like different commands right there, followed by space. You can navigate, you can do a lot of interesting things. You can see a lot of these are under the basic. You can see basic stuff, the command line stuff, the status bar stuff, customizations, extensions, the files and folder, interesting tricks that you can do. You can change the keyboard shortcuts to different things. You can change the IntelliSense, you can change the snippets, you can change the snippet. I'm just going to talk about snippet later on today, just to show us some little interesting things that we can create. And also eventually when we get deeper, we can also learn more about Git integration. We have the debugging tricks, we have the stacks runout skills, we have the portable modes, mode, and other interesting detail that we can really set up. But I'm going to just keep it simple right here. So let me show you a little bit about snippets before we kind of like bring the whole thing to a close. Okay, so what are snippets? So when I type log right here, you can see right here that what I can press what enter, right, and it gives me console.log, and that's a very fast way to really operate. Another thing I can do is what I can do clg. Okay, clg is not enabled, so instead of log I prefer to use clg. So how do I make my console.log to come in with what clg? Now how do we create a new snippet? Now not only inside javascript we can create what snippet, inside of our what HTML, you can have snippet. HTML colon 5 is what a snippet that helps us to set up the skeletal stuff we need for HTML. Okay, another one I think I have is what HTML base, right? You click on enter, it gives us a list of all these basic things as well right there. I think there are a lot of interesting snippets that I think I have. I think I have one for CSS. I'm not sure. I have some for CSS. I'm not sure. I can't remember a lot of them again, but there are interesting snippets that I have that enables me to move so fast. So the task here that we're going to do is we're going to create a new snippet with what CLG. How do we go about that? You come to your manage, you go to what user snippet, then it asks us, okay, then you can ask or click on like the new if it's a global one, but if it's a specific language, you can then type the name of the language, which is JavaScript, right? And then you click on what enter. So what it does is create what a javascript.json for you that you can then use. Now mine has been created already. That's why you see all this. You can read this. This is the full detail of like explanation of what happens, right? Explaining to you how to create what is snippet. So there is this example right here that we can leverage on. I like to copy, just copy this. Okay, once I copy this, I then take this towards the end of what my own verse here right there. So this was the one we created earlier into this class for people who are on the Mac, right? You see still here because of something we call sync. It's synced from my Mac laptop to the Windows laptop here. So I can come in here and paste this entirely here. So what happens here? You have this print to console, and the prefix is what it this is what you type in to bring out that the full chunk of any text you want to bring in. So for this case, I'm going to change it to what CLG, because what I want is CLG. And anytime I do CLG, I want it to create a new console.log and put the cursor in the middle. So the $1 and the $2 signifies where your cursors are going to be. I think this text off the top explains what the $0, $1, and the $2 means. And I think this is another one. You can also add a label to each of the dollars, whether it's $1 or the $2. It is extremely powerful. If you want to really dig in deep into this is something that will help you and make you understand how to do a lot of interesting things in VS Code. I mean, eventually you can create your own snippet, right? Eventually a list of snippets, right, if you want to do that. So right here now, if we type CLG, I've already made sure that you put the prefix is CLG. This is the body, the content of what is going to show, and this is just a description, right, in case we need any description. So I'm going back into this place now, and I'm going to type what CLG. So automatically you can see CLG, and you can see my description right here. So if you click on it, it will bring out what my console.log, and that is a snippet. It is beautiful. It makes your life so much easy, so much easy right there. Now what else am I supposed to quickly touch? We make sure that our code is working in the terminal, right? What else? Yeah, I think this covers absolutely like all the things we did into this class for people who are on the Mac, and this is the version that will cover for what for everybody who is using Windows. I hope you will take your time to watch this. I took my own time to also make this, and I hope you yourself would take your time to watch this. And I've also been emphasizing that word. Please take a course that I am referring to as what learning how to learn, learning how to learn, learning how to learn, right, on Coursera. It's an interesting, important course which will help you to understand, right, the concept of learning. It is important for anyone who is going to really go far in this programming field to know what learning entails. Okay, right? Learning entails a lot of interesting things, understanding how you assimilate information, whether you're able to reproduce, what's the short term, like how does your brain handles information. Are you a visual learner? Do you learn with videos? Do you learn with what you read? Do you learn with what you listen to? And it will also help you to really understand more what I will be teaching in the live class, because again, if you come to a live class and you don't take some notes, you don't take some things down of what we are doing during the live class, you might easily forget after hours of what we do, or before the video is released by the hotspot team. So what you want to do is take this course. It's just a 4 weeks course, and I think it's 16 hours around thereabout. It will help you a lot, and I am advising you to take this course. I hope that by the time we are going to see next class on Wednesday, a lot of you would have completed this course and you will be absolutely excited about the new thing we're going to be doing, which is what HTML proper, right? We're going to be going into HTML, and I hope that we can do justice to HTML with less than 1 month, hopefully. And I hope everybody can really grab all the basic concepts of what HTML is, and eventually we'll move on to CSS, which is a little bit wide and a little bit technical. And after that, we can then move to what JavaScript. Right, in between, we're going to be having some tests and we're going to be having some exams. Right, I'm going to be introducing you to another software called Figma, right, where we're going to give you a design and we expect you to convert the design into the proper code, which is the HTML, the CSS, and the JavaScript version. So it is very, very much important to get yourself mentally prepared, right? Don't come to spam the comment section, right? Come prepared to learn. And I hope every of the time you are here learning is going to definitely worth it. Thank you so much for staying tuned, and thank you for your patience. And I really appreciate, and I look forward to seeing you all in the next class. Bye for now.